Hello, everyone. Welcome to Word Funk. I am Leon Thomas. I am joined by Johnny Maloney and Austin Yorsky. Guys, how you feeling this week?
Austin, I just want to tell you that when I said I would do my best to be entertaining on the podcast this week, and then said, having said that, I wasn't talking about you. I was suggesting that my best might be subpar.
I've completely forgotten that entire conversation, so that was gibberish to me. I hope that's okay.
1 minute ago. What happened
all right,
to you?
We're starting strong, fellas.
In the space between 1 minute ago and now, what happened?
I have lived and died 1,000 lifetimes since that conversation, Leon. I'm a new man.
All right, Leon, I have an idea. If you edit this podcast backwards this week, all right, then we can do Memento, where it's like Austin just forgets every 5 minutes what we're talking about, and then we can just go back again. So all of our awesome jokes at the end of the show will be at the front, but nobody will understand them because they won't have heard this bit yet until the very end.
This continues to be gobbledygook. I have stuff to talk about this week. Leon doesn't. Johnny, the jury's still out.
Yeah, it's funny. Like on Tumblr, someone sent me an ask, and they said something like, but when you record Word Funk, is there a live stream of it anywhere where we can listen? I was like, no, we record it privately. But what I really meant to say was, there is no way I would ever let this air as it happens without my stern editing fingers all over it.
He doesn't trust us, Johnny. He thinks we're just loose cannons.
I genuinely do not.
I was going to
don't trust
suggest that
myself.
for our 200th episode extravaganza, that maybe we live cast. But
I'm sorry, but I'm just gonna put like a gigantic kibosh on that.
All right.
Whatever that word even really means.
Okay, so a heavy class kibosh.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like the strongest of vetoes. So I just cannot.
We did okay when we simulated farming, guys.
Did we have?
First of all, no, we didn't. we all failed at farming. So.
Look, I seem to recall there being some great hydraulics moments.
All right, none of this is accessible. We should talk about something that other people can enjoy.
Actually, it's weird. Somebody commented on a WordFunk video a few weeks ago that was like, hey, remember when you guys played Farming Simulator? And I was like, yeah, I was there.
Something of us is there. We've changed a lot.
Yeah, so, let's do everything we can to like avoid starting the show and just talk.
I'm trying
and finishing it properly. Thanks for listening this week, everybody. How meta was that?
Short and sweet.
Oh my! All right.
Well, Austin, no, because if we put that at the end.
Right? Oh Christ! Okay, I'm just gonna start talking about stuff. If someone else doesn't take this mic, you're gonna get 2.5 hours of Magic the Gathering talk, and you're gonna like it.
Have you never seen Memento? Have you never seen Memento?
Of course. Everyone's seen Memento.
I've seen it twice.
In the same order, both times?
Yeah, I saw it once, and then I was really excited. You know what? That's not true. I've seen it 3 times. And all in the same night. I watched it, and then I was so excited, and I rewound it, which really dates this, and watched it again because I was like really thrown by the twist and how it worked out, and I was really happy with the movie. And then someone came home. This is back when I had family, and I said, you should watch this movie with me, and then we did, and that person didn't get it.
And then later that night, Leon tore off his sleeve and yelled, I have no son, which is why he doesn't have family anymore.
Yeah, I'm definitely not talking about children. I just want that to be clear. I want that to be clear. Like every once in a while, I'll mention the fact that I am estranged from my family. It's not a super big deal, but I don't want anyone to think that when I say I'm estranged from my family, that I'm like a deadbeat dad who like just kind of like I have like 4 kids and I just ditched them.
No, they all died. They all died in the accident.
Yeah.
If you did disown a son, though, Leon, it would definitely be over a Nolan film. That's the only way that would shake out.
One way or another.
Yeah.
No, I have no children. Thank goodness. I saw some children today, and they were all horrible. And I just kept muttering under my breath, "I hate children. I hate children."
That's a very normal, well-adjusted thing to do, Leon. Thanks for sharing that with us. They just could not stop screaming and screaming, and they weren't even screaming about anything. Didn't even have a complaint. It's 2018. Let them scream. We all should be screaming.
No, they're not like yelling like, "Oh no, the economy is bad" or anything like that. They were just yelling about nothing. It was just like, and none of them about the same thing. They all had different ideas about what they were going to talk about, and none of them let them talk. So it was terrible. And I just every time I see horrible children, I'm like, thank goodness they're not mine. Thank goodness. Like I'm just never going to be in that position.
Are you telling me you wouldn't enjoy if you came upon a group of children shrieking about the economy?
Look, if I came across some like really woke kids, I would be like, you know what? Pretty great. Still not mine though.
Bitcoin has dropped 50%. The blockchain.
Okay, so this has gone on for about 9 minutes. I'm like actively trying not to start the show because I have nothing to talk about this week, as I mentioned.
This was called edging in the podcasting industry.
Yeah, but Austin does, and he can go if he wants to, and by go I mean start. I don't mean leave.
or both.
Please don't leave. We need you on this week. Austin, please tell us about whatever.
Man, I got the hot, fresh content you crave. Don't even sweat it. I got more content than you can handle. I'm overflowing. My cup runneth over with the content, Leon. So I got you.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks for your cup.
All right, so where should we start? Sticky note. I'm just going to start in order here. I watched a cool thing. So you guys have probably heard me talk about Gundam before, right?
Yep. They are no, wait, I was about to say they're robots, but no, they're people who go inside robots.
I vaguely recall you mentioning it once.
Okay. Gundam. It's going to be that kind of show, huh? I was trying to spare you by talking about something that you could contribute to because I was going to turn in a certain direction, but I can just talk about magic.
I want to hear about hot, new, exciting things in the world of Gundam.
It's not hot, new, and exciting specifically because I went back and watched an old Gundam.
Okay, I want cooled, mature things in the world of Gundam. Things that have had time to age properly and are now smoother and more full.
I mean, you joke, but that is the basic crux of what I'm getting to. Because as Leon has so pointed out, Gundam is about people getting inside robots and driving them around. But Gundam is also a very kind of divided series. There's a very sharp delineation between the series, which are about like super cool robots that are used to sell toys to children, and the kind of shows which are like dark anti-war allegories.
Right. All your friends are dead. Don't shoot people with big robots. Even if it looks really cool.
Like children holding teddy bears in rubble as strings happen. I mean, the original intent of the author Tomino in the late 70s when Gundam started was to do an anti-war series, but it turns out that's not very profitable. So a lot of things have changed over time. But the show I went and watched specifically was the 8th MS Team, which is a 12-episode OVA from the 80s. MS is Mobile Suit, so 8th Mobile Suit Team. And it is explicitly a Vietnam story with giant robots, which sounds like bordering on kind of disrespectful, but it's basically almost indistinguishable from like Platoon the series or something. It just so happens that the tanks have legs for a lot of it. It does get a little bit less grounded near the end, but for the most part it's like a lot of people in camp. like cooking and talking about like their loves back home, and there's like pinup girls all over the place, and people are talking about what they're gonna do when they get out, and it's just like every once in a while a guy with a laser rifle shows up, and it's like really chilled out compared to a lot of Gundam, which is like super muscly dudes killing hundreds of robots with a single sweep of like a laser sword or something. And it was like it was refreshing. Like you joked, like it's really mature and it goes down smooth, but that's exactly
I only ever half. Well, no, that's not true. But I was only half joking this time. I promise.
Okay. But so I've talked before how about Gundam is kind of my Star Trek in that it's like a 40-year running series which has a lot of highs and lows. Like great swaths of Gundam are garbage in the same way that a lot of Star Trek is garbage, but the high points are worth it for me. So I kind of wanted to talk about that with you, Leon, to get you kind of involved in there. Is there any kind of...
Thanks.
What's the divide like between, like, I know there's a lot of comedy Star Trek and there's a lot of serious Star Trek. Like, which do you prefer, and does that schizophrenia bother you at all?
Oh, well, no, it actually doesn't. Deep Space Nine is my favorite Star Trek, and it's the most serious stuff, or even darkest stuff, but it also has like really great comedy episodes. Take Me Out to the Holosuite is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. It's basically just a baseball game. Some Vulcans come to the station and they got like a wild hair up their ass about the fact that humans aren't as good as them, and then they have a baseball game, and I mean, spoiler, the humans lose badly, but it's like fun. It's very fun, and Worf says like, "We will destroy them," and it's like it's a game, Worf. But no, the sort of like episode 12 is very serious about a plague, and then episode 13 of the same season is Quark dressing up like a woman. The tonal shift works because there's you know what it is? There's a bunch of, it's because of the cast of characters. It's just like a movie. Someone has to be comic relief. In like a movie and in a television series that's like a serious-ish drama, and there's always like a comic relief character. Sooner or later, that character gets an episode where they're the central focus, and so it's just going to be a funny one. Mm-hmm. So it kind of it sort of like feels like it happens organically rather than feeling forced, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that sounds like it's a kind of a outgrowth of having a diverse ensemble cast. I guess the difference would be in Gundam, it's like every series has its own tone. It's not so much episode to episode. So like for Gundam, it'd be like, what if like Deep Space Nine had one tone and like Next Generation had a different tone, and I'm running out of things I actually know. Discovery had a different tone. It's not so much episode to episode. So for like Gundam, there's one series where the whole story is just kids playing with toys. Like and that's not a serious one. And then you have something like War in the Pocket, which is just like, hey, civilians die in war. That's all. That's what it is. The whole thing. So it's like it's not jarring in the short term. It's jarring in the long term, which I think is like hard for a fandom to sustain, because a lot of Gundam fans have disdain for other Gundam fans. They're like, oh, you like Gundam Wing? They're like, oh, so you're just there for like the pretty boys with drama or something. Like they have that kind of shit.
Oh, see that would be kind of jarring to me, because even in like Discovery, which is by far the even only halfway through the first season, it's
the least Trekkiest Star Trek.
Yeah, it really is. And yet there is a comedy episode already. And it was really funny, and Rainn Wilson is in it, and he's wonderful and funny in it. And the ending is just like it's like it's a goofy ass ending, rather than like everything else in this series. So yeah, like I think I would be okay with that. I think I'm okay with Star Trek doing that, because you need a breather every once in a while. But for example, if Discovery didn't happen, and the people who made Star Trek say, yeah, the next Star Trek series is just, it's like sketch comedy, but in space, I'd be like, oh, I don't really need to watch this then. This isn't relative to my interests at all.
So you'd be a purist? You're like, this isn't real Trek.
No. I wouldn't say this isn't real Trek. Just in the same way that like Deep Space Nine is vastly different from the original series, and Discovery has shifted around quite a bit. And I'm starting to like Discovery, but no, like I wouldn't care to watch something that is it would be hard to get into a Star Trek series that is just a completely different genre, but happen to take place in the same universe. I'm not saying it couldn't work, but it would not be, relative to my interests. So, like, I can see, like, people who like the serious tone of, like, a Gundam season, or a Gundam series, say, oh, this is my Gundam. And then when, like, Goofy Gundam happens, like, oh, well, this is not the same show at all.
Yeah, I prefer the extreme ends of the spectrum. I like the really serious dark ones, and I like the ones that are like basically so irreverent it's kind of fucked up, like G Gundam and stuff. Where it's like, wouldn't it be funny if all the robots were racial stereotypes? Like, I mean, yes, is the answer. It is kind of funny, but it's kind of also fucked up. What are you doing? God, Japan is good. It's a lot.
Japan is.
Yeah, it's a lot. I'm still. You know what's weird? Everyone after we talked about Devilman, I got a lot of responses last week. People saying like, "Oh, I tried to watch,"
which I watched this week, by the way.
Yeah, and I want to check in briefly because I've been thinking about it all week. It hasn't been like a flash in the pan. Like, I'm still like constantly mulling over my feelings about it. Have you finished it?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a kind of summarization, or are you going to walk through it more depth?
I'd be comfortable walking through it.
Okay. How do you feel about Devilman Crybaby?
I liked it.
Oh God, I'm so glad.
But in a weird, difficult way.
It's a very difficult show.
It did, and the content was not necessarily so difficult. Just that, like, sometimes it. Sometimes it was just like so deliciously subtle. And other times, like, not.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of, and I mean, I recognize that it's based on like a classic manga, So there's a lot of like old school tropes that it's playing off of that have had time to become tropes that maybe weren't when the book was originally written. So I'm not trying to. I don't want to judge it on that. I don't want to be like, oh. Okay, that again.
Yeah, and I mean, they updated some stuff, but not others. Like, one of the things they did was they took the main love interest, who was kind of, I want to say, like, scrappier in the original, like, more of a delinquent, and they made her, like, very pure, like, virginal, kind of like the Madonna and the Madonna horror complex thing.
Right.
And that, it really did, it was simpler moral-wise, but it also removed, I think, some of the texture of what they were going for with that stuff.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that was in response to current anime trends, where, like, I think you're familiar with the term waifu is a very...
Oh, yes, I've heard that one.
It's a very powerful force right now, and I don't know if I liked that particular change, but there's other ones like the social media stuff, which I actually think was really well done.
Yeah,
so,
I've written here in some notes. I wrote... Fleshy, wet snapdragon. Because that was a scene.
Yeah.
And at the bottom here I've written, fave part, when the girl changes the world by making a fucking LiveJournal post.
Yeah, she tries to stop the apocalypse with tweeting. It's very 2018. Leon, I saw on Twitter, I think you tried it and you noped out. Do you have any more thoughts, or is it just too much?
I didn't care about any of the characters or what was happening or the dialogue or horniness. So
yeah, I mean, it's not a very Leon show.
It's pretty horny.
No,
I'm not going to hold that against you, Leon.
No, it's fine. There's just I don't know. Like we've talked about this before. I don't watch a lot of anime, but when I do, it's not this.
Yeah.
The action horror whatever anime is not
action horror sweet synthwave.
Or we talked about this before, Austin. You said that I don't like shonen anime, and I thought that meant action, but it just means boy.
Yeah, shonen's young boy, seinen's older boy, shoujo's young girl, josei older girl.
Man, I'm gonna remember that.
Yeah, I sure am. I don't like boy anime, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't know. It for some reason it just
is Yuri on Ice boy anime?
It's not only boy anime; it's BL, boys love.
Yeah, that's different. So that maybe that's why I like it. But yeah, it's I don't know. It's not for me. I don't need to see like ass teeth. That's not. I don't know. It doesn't. It didn't appeal to me in any way. So I was like, yeah, I could keep watching this, or I could like get back to work. And I decided to get back to work. That's it. I guess I don't have the strongest of feelings, and I can't really give it like a proper like analysis or review if I've only seen the one episode.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't think you would like it. I actually kind of do appreciate you at least trying. That's more than I actually thought was going to happen, but I'm 100% like not surprised.
Okay.
That's how it went.
When listening to how excited you were about it, I thought about how you felt about Neo Yokio, and I really liked that. So I was like, oh, maybe this is going to be like that. Like this is like going to be one of those shows that I'm actually like super into. And I was like, no.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a little bit for the characters to get likable. Like the first episode, they're not, and I understand that. But also, I think just even if you got a little bit farther, I just don't think you would have ever really warmed up to the aesthetics or the let's just call it the organic nature of a lot of what's going on, the horniness, if you will.
Okay.
Right. I'm still game for talking about it though.
Yeah, horny thoughts, Johnny.
It's I'm not sure I appreciated like it's sort of like I consider myself to be a really sex positive person, you know, and I get the association that people have with like the sudden influx of hormones and like social ineptitude and not having to worry about the opposite sex or the same sex the year before, or any sex indeed. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be exclusive. Not having to worry about that the year before and then suddenly being like confronted with it and being like, what do I do? Yeah, but I mean like it in Devilman that always seems to devolve, and I hate using that word as well. But it always seems to reduce. There we go. It always seems to reduce to like really base emotions as opposed to actually trying to like figure this shit out, you know?
There have been a lot of think pieces recently, and I guess I follow different people than Leon, as we discussed last week. There's a lot of like scholarly work going on right now in the Devilman scene. Everybody's really into it, but there's a lot of people talking about if it's nihilistic or not, and we can't go into it too much without spoiling the whole show. Yeah. But I think you could definitely walk away from this saying like, oh, the point of this is that everyone is irredeemable and everything is bad forever. But I think that while that is a possible reading, I don't think it's the only one, and so no, I am open to the interpretation that the way that all the sex stuff devolves, quote unquote, could be read pretty negatively. But there's another one. There's a note, especially the note the show ends on, where you're like, there is room for hope, and that's enough for me. But also, your mileage may super vary. So, yeah, I feel like I'm talking around it, but it's definitely a thing where if you're off put, like, I 100% get it. Like, it's a hard sit, and it says some shit. Like, it doesn't flinch, which I respect, even if I don't agree.
I was not off put with it. I mean, like, I have room in my life for art that doesn't agree with my worldview.
Yeah.
Or like at least my ambition to try and be a more constructive person or try and create a more constructive society. I was going to talk, and I guess I'll talk later. Don Hertzfeldt has a new short film out, and his films they don't have a very positive moral message at the end of them, usually. But yeah, like I mean, it very early on in the show, at least for the first half of the show, I would say, like it plays really heavily in allegory and things like that. And then the latter half of the show, the second 5 episodes, are a lot more. They play off ideas that they came up with through the allegory that they've designed, you know. So it's. I didn't like the second half of the show as much as I liked the first half of the show. Mm-hmm. I still like it as a complete product, and I'm not going to say, oh, stop at episode 5 or anything like that, because it kind of does need to be viewed as a whole.
For the message to land, but it's also the Devilman TV show, the one they made many years ago, is just an adaptation of the first half for many reasons, but because it's more of a superhero story. Guy gets powers, he fights bad guys, and that's fine, and you can actually stretch that out over, I don't know how many episodes the TV show ran for, but many. But once you get to the second half, there is a inescapable momentum, which... It does feel like you're being like basically crushed.
It takes a hard left pretty quickly,
and it feels inescapable. Like I had to watch it all in one sitting because I felt like I was being compelled by the weight of it.
Yeah, I broke actually at the 5th episode. I finished the 5th episode and I had to stop watching because sleep is a thing. And then I think the next day. The next day or the day after, I picked it up again and watched the remaining 5. So I don't know if that plays into my perception of it, that I watched the first 5 episodes, and then I was like, can't wait to get more of that. And then I went in on episode 6, and it was like, hard left! But like, even still, you know, like, there were some conflicted characters in the show. Again, I'm trying really hard to avoid spoilers here because Austin is absolutely right that it is something that you should see for yourself and see if you're going to enjoy. But there are conflicted characters in the show who don't the internal conflict that they feel is so negligible. If you know what I'm talking about. It's like everybody really early on, it seems, kind of decides where they land. Where, like, you know, I'm going to be a good guy, I'm going to be a bad guy, you know, like it's really... And I think I would have appreciated a little bit more confusion from these characters.
Yeah, I think the main characters, the protagonist and the antagonist, are pretty clear from the beginning because it's such a classic story. There's no point in hiding it. Like, everyone knows how the story kind of goes, so they don't make any attempt to... Because it is, like, in the original manga, it's more of a twist when the antagonist is revealed as being so. But it's not... Like, it's there's no point in really even hiding it. Like, he's evil. He just... I mean, he does fucked up... Like, he attacks people in the first episode with a broken bottle. Actually, I don't know why I'm hiding it. It's in the first episode. He's bad. He's always bad. But the extent of his badness is a slower burn, I think, later. But there's a new character who's exclusive to Crybaby, I think, who's a gay track star. Mm-hmm. And he has this inner conflict that I think would have been really fun to explore, but he is kind of shuffled out of events.
It lasts for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, and
this is one of the characters that I was talking about. The other character I'm talking about, of course, is the heroine's track rival.
Yeah, who is a composite character from original manga characters, I think. Like, they kept the name, but it's, like, actually 2 different... It's complicated, not really worth getting into, but she does have, actually, I think probably the most extreme arc, ending in, like, a really anguished scene where she basically reveals she's bi.
Yeah.
Which I thought was really special, and a lot of people have been talking about a lot, too. So I think that's actually one of the better handled ones, that it contrasts with the other guy, Kota, the track star, who doesn't, I think, get the arc he really deserves. Although there is stuff in there.
He could have used a lot more.
Yeah.
Like, an absolute, like, whole lot more. Especially considering, like, his... Sophie's Choice.
Yeah, and I think that they felt constrained by the source material. Like, they didn't want to go too far abreast without, because they were very faithful in a lot of things. So they're like, oh, we're going to put our own stuff in here, but only to a limited extent so we don't piss off fans, maybe. But there's also, there is stuff if you dig, like, there's the whole thing with the bull transformation, and like bulls are, a traditional virility symbol, and that's, there's stuff there. Like, it's not a bad choice they made. It's just, I wanted more.
I found the emotional development of most of the characters to be insipidly declarative. Like, that was probably the biggest thing that bothered me about it, was that it was like characters would kind of like reach this point in time and then just suddenly yell out like, I really love cheese pizza! And it was like, and it's like, that's it. And it was like, they didn't really talk much about how strange they felt about cheese pizza beforehand. It was always very like, nothing, pro cheese pizza. and so that was kind of like, I mean, that might just be, like a storytelling thing.
I think there's an extent to which it is just a manga thing to say your feelings out loud. Like, that happens all the way up to the modern day. Like, Naruto does that. Like, I don't know if that's not an excuse. That is an explanation.
Again, I'm trying not to hold it against the source material, because I recognize that it may be like a progenitor of this, as opposed to, I think I said the same thing about JoJo when I first started watching it, was that I was like, this is so very obviously all of these things that have, since it was invented, become things.
Yeah.
And being aware of the fact that it's partly responsible for the creation of that, I'm kind of like, it's okay. It doesn't necessarily gel with me these days as superior storytelling, but I'm willing to turn a blind eye to it because the content is pretty well thought out.
Yeah. And actually, this reminds me, because I did just watch 8th MS Team, which is also does that. And it did give me a
boner at one point in time.
Oh, God. Johnny.
I'm not going to tell you when.
Okay, yeah, leave that mystery. But actually, I'm just like, I'm going over in my head now, and like, is that something that you are willing to like just look past? You're like, oh, that's an anime thing, or does that really hamper your enjoyment? I feel like that does for Leon, where you're just like, no, that's bad writing. Don't do that.
I can look past it.
Okay.
I can look past it because like it's in the end, dramatic sensibilities and language and the way that people use language culturally is fundamentally going to be a different thing. Like it always will. There's no way we can divorce language from history, and history from systems, and systems from like people trying to fit themselves into these systems. So when it comes to story writing and like telling stories and things like that, I like to think of myself as being a little more multicultural than most people. And it's obvious from even just touching like a lot of Caucasian subcultures and even some like African stories I've read and things like that, is that different histories, different languages, different cultures, and different systems make for different storytelling. Yeah. So I can see that and go, it's not for me, but I can get past it because it's not necessarily bad writing. Whereas I can watch something like Sucker Punch and be like, that was awful.
Yeah, by the standards of the culture that I am in, I am very aware it's bad, and I hope it's also bad for everyone else too.
Precisely. I'd be really upset to hear that Sucker Punch was like super popular in Argentina.
That would be disappointing. I kind of do it a soft segue because there's something that I keep thinking we're going to talk about, but I never get to bring it up, and it's there's no real other way to talk about it, but it's about like writing in general, right? Because I had a really interesting conversation in a college class once. I don't remember, it was literature of some kind. I don't remember which one, but I think it's one of the best conversations I've ever had in an academic setting, and I kind of want to run it by you guys, which was basically the professor just posed the question like, what why is subtle better in writing?
You know what? I have strong feelings about this.
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought that up. Here's the thing. When I was younger, I had really like pro subtlety leanings, like oh look how gentle that was placed into the narrative, like oh my, like you have to really squint to see it, but once you do, ooh, it just appears in your brain, and isn't that special? And I'm not saying it's not, because it can be, but here's what else I learned recently about when the message of the message or the point of your story is blunt or subtle. One of my favorite movies is called Ashes and Diamonds, and it's a Polish film, and it's very, very good. It takes place just after World War II, and one of the guys in it is the male lead. Used to be in, well, he's still in like the sort of like a resistance movement, because even after the war, things were not great in Poland. But anyway, so there's this scene, and there's like little bits and pieces of like Christ allegory stuff, as is common in many movies, which is fine. And there's a scene where he and the female lead are sitting in an abandoned church, and there's an upside-down crucifix, and it just sways in front of the camera really close. It's right in your fucking face about how Jesus-y everything is supposed to be right now. And it's like a gorgeous scene in my mind. And there's a similar in-your-face Jesus-y thing in Man of Steel, where... Hang on.
Sorry.
Where Clark Kent is in church, and a very like blunt "I am Jesus" thing is happening, where like a stained glass window of Jesus is right there, to make sure that the audience knows that things are about to get real Jesus-y, and we're supposed to be in mind of this, just like in Ashes and Diamonds. And I started thinking about it a little while ago. And I thought to myself, why do I think it's so great in this movie, even though it's really blunt, and think it's just awful in that other movie when it's really blunt? And I could be wrong, and this is not universal. I want to be clear about it. This is not universal. But what I came up with, at least in this specific instance, is that everything around the Jesus stuff in Ashes and Diamonds is really good. Like the acting is really good, the drama is really good, everything feels really, the dialogue is really good, everything is structured really well. The movie itself is just really good, and it sort of earns Jesus, whereas in Man of Steel, it's structured like shit, and everything is terrible. It's so goddamn awful. And I know some people like that movie, and whatever, enjoy your movie, but I just think it's dreck. And then when they give us Jesus, I think in my mind, I'm like, you didn't earn Jesus. You can't give me.
Earning Jesus is big money. Like you gotta get there.
But that's the thing, and that's it's related to how I feel about the word pretentious. People say like anything like that seems significant is pretentious. Like no, it's not. It's when something isn't. Basically, you listen to the word pretentious, you know what it means. Where you're pretending that what you're offering is more significant than it actually is. When you put on airs about something's importance. So when Ashes and Diamonds says, oh, by the way, there's some Jesus stuff in this movie, you're like, yeah, I mean, this movie is smart enough that I can accept that. But when Man of Steel does it, it feels pretentious because you didn't earn it. You're just a bad movie with some Jesus stuff in it. And the bluntness of it is not the problem. It's everything around it. So a movie can be subtle, or a movie can just tell you what it means, but it's the everything around it to me that's more important.
So Leon, can I distill your thought here?
Okay.
Into the statement that subtlety isn't always necessarily better,
Yeah.
But like appropriate usage is really what lifts a work of art like into that, oh, okay, you belong now. It lifts it out of just being entertainment into something that we consider art, let's say.
I mean, maybe in part, but my other point is not that it's not that subtlety greater than bluntness. You know, I don't believe that it's like a mathematical equation.
No.
Where you're like, oh, look how subtle this is. That means it's better than that movie that had a crucifix upside down swinging back and forth.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you can take this back to Star Trek, because Star Trek is one of probably the least subtle franchises. But and yet at the same time, we are completely capable of appreciating it and are sort of like, okay, yeah.
Yeah, the episode with the guys with the black and white faces is not in any way subtle, but it's pretty solid because everything sort of like building up to all that and like around it is pretty good. There are so many episodes of Next Generation where the point of the episode is summed up in a great speech by Captain Picard,
like right at the end.
Right?
Aren't we all just really furries?
He's not talking to the Starfleet officers.
No.
He's talking to the audience, and that's okay because everything everything around that felt like totally okay. You don't have to be subtle. Sometimes you can just tell us what you mean.
Yeah.
The episode, the Drumhead, is one of my favorite Next Generation episodes, and it's just the end is Picard. He has a big speech in front of people, and then he has another speech to Worf. It's like you might as well look at the camera and say, you know what, we had a lot of fun tonight on Star Trek: The Next Generation. Right? I'm sorry. Yeah, I feel like I'm dominating a lot of this conversation. Austin, you brought this up. How do you feel about all of this? I'm sorry.
Actually, I really wanted to talk with you guys about it because I value both of your opinions a lot. And also, I had this conversation for like an hour and a half with a bunch of other really smart people, and none of us had good answers. So I was curious where we would go because it's something I still think about a lot. I kind of put fiction out into the universe as part of my existence now. And my artistic impulse is to wrap everything in 1,000 layers of symbolism and allegory because I am, admittedly, a pretentious fuck. But, I mean, I think you mentioned this too. Like, there was an arc when I was younger where I thought that was just better. And now it's not. Now it's just part of my style. It's not so much a value judgment. But I think about it a lot because there's all these people misunderstanding stuff, maybe deliberately reading bad faith things into the things like Fight Club we've talked about before, or just claiming shit like, oh, Metal Gear Solid isn't political, like the wrongest, objectively wrong things people can say with their mouths. And I think about it sometimes, and in a lot of art forms, you learn the rules so that you can know when to break them. I think that's a very important thing. It's like, don't use, adverbs in your writing or something, but it's when you get good enough, you'll know when. And I think subtlety can be like that too. It's a tool where you should generally try to not beat your audience over the head, but if you're good enough, you'll know when to make it count.
Frankly,
the best I have.
Frankly, Austin, that is like the best way that people learn, though. People learn in structures. I mean, if you think about any math that we learn, right from birth, we're like, okay, 1 and 1 is 2, and 2 and 2 is 4, and this is multiplication, and this is that, and then like by the end of high school, they're like, and this number is so small, it might as well be 0. And it's like, no, it can't. It's not how it works. Numbers.
Your math class was lit. What's happening?
I took advanced placement calculus in my final year of math class, and there are math functions that essentially get to a point in time where they say, yeah, and we can make the estimate of this number so small that we're all pretty comfortable qualifying it as 0. Like, a huge amount of math that we have these days is based upon people saying, yeah, close enough.
I just want to throw out there, Johnny. Asymptote.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. That felt like that should have been your job. You're the one who usually says dumb shit in the middle of other people's things. Sorry for biting your flavor.
It's okay. We're rubbing off on each other, literally and figuratively. Anyways, but yeah, like, and even when I started learning Kung Fu, a lot of the times when you're learning physical responses, and I'm sure this is the same with sports, is that you learn basics. It's like, do this and then do this. Do this and then do this. Do this and then do this. And then you get good at that, like, chain of 2 things. And then they're like, okay, now do these 5 things. Then you do those 5 things. And, like, you basically work yourself up into knowing the components of these things so well that it becomes easy to deconstruct it. It becomes easy to say, hey, so you know all those things that you did, like, in order now? We're going to break them up, and we're going to use them individually, and you have to use your brain now to use them. You have to respond to things on the fly. You have to be able to look at a situation in creating art, in writing, in whatever, and say, nah, fuck this.
Yeah, I think the pedagogical implications are interesting, but like the conversation when I had it was very much about the audience response, which was people don't like being preached to, and there's like some kind of mental block, basically, that when
I think Facebook proves that.
But this is like the people. There's this idea that people are resistant to being told things. You kind of have to trick them into your theme. But I feel like if you're not open to the theme to begin with, it's not like if it sneaks up on you, you're going to be like, oh, you got me. Now I have to believe this. I don't know if that's true. The idea that subtle is better for giving people lessons. Because
one of the worst experiences in reading a book I ever had was Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Uh-huh.
Fucking hate that book.
I'm aware of it. I actually haven't read it.
And it tried so hard.
Okay.
Yeah? Okay.
I honestly don't even want to get into it.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That is just like it presupposes a whole bunch of shit. And then like you get like halfway through this book, and then the presuppositions start to appear, and I was like, you fucking asshole. Like, I'm halfway through this book already, and I don't agree with your goddamn base ideas. Fuck you! But I finished the book anyways, because fuck you.
I mean, you already got your money, so.
Yeah, exactly. I may as well, learn to hate it properly.
Is someone hammering? I hear hammering.
Yeah, I was gonna wait until we were done talking about this and then get into a big thing about this.
I'm excited.
But someone, my downstairs neighbors, they are not in. Some of them are not in their apartment. They are outside, in the parking lot or driveway, I should say. And
fucking cars.
They have what?
Look, all I hear is somebody just hammering at a car.
Now, what's happening is this, and I don't know exactly what it means. One of them has a pickup truck, and it's full of dirt, and a guy is scraping the dirt into a bucket, and I don't know why. I don't know where this dirt is going. I'm not going to ask him.
Oh, it's Dirt Dash.
I'm not going to open up my window and be like, hey, what's with all the dirt? And why are you doing this at almost 10 o'clock at night?
He's carrying a very small body.
He must.
Can you ask him what he thinks of the value of artistic subtlety? We're just getting an outside opinion on this one.
I'm of the opinion that subtle is not necessarily always better.
Yeah,
not necessarily. Like there's Judge Dredd, for example, not very subtle. Hunter S. Thompson.
And yet, hold on, I'm sorry. I hate to cut you off, but you said Judge Dredd, not very subtle. And yet, I do have people who don't get the satire.
Yeah.
That's okay though. I mean, people are going to always interpret art for their own means anyways.
I know.
You can't just release art out into the world and be like, there, now everybody will understand me perfectly.
But sometimes it's just never mind.
Name one. All right, name one.
Now,
come on.
I know.
They Live. Yeah, right.
That's what I'm talking about. Like, look, there's like, I understand that it's possible to interpret art in different ways. Like, I get that, of course, but I also feel like there's a very obvious and clear interpretation of something.
You would think so. Liam,
I know,
because the message of that movie, like the author's intended message of that movie, lines up with your worldview. And
it doesn't just line up with my worldview; it lines up with his.
I am aware of that. I'm aware of that. Okay, but the thing is that it's very easy for somebody to view a piece of art and come away with their own conclusions based on their own life experience, because they have no reference point.
I think we've all released enough content on the internet to realize that the whole thing is futile. Like, Johnny, you've written reviews and been like, this is a good game. First comment, why do you hate this game? There's just like nothing. It is disheartening sometimes, but also it is kind of fascinating.
My favorite was whenever Yusuf would write reviews for the Assassin's Creed games.
Uh-huh.
Where he would be like, I'm a giant Assassin's Creed fan. That having been said, this Assassin's Creed game comes with some problems. And he would score it positively, and people would be like, they would become viral. I think they were the only reason why Blistered Thumbs stayed open as long as it was. It was because people were always like, what's that fucking British asshole gonna say about Assassin's Creed this time?
And people are still mad about his Wonderful 101 review.
No kidding.
Yeah, still mad. I think it's on the TV tropes page and everything. That's not a joke. We could probably talk more about this, and I'm infinitely prepared to in future episodes because I have more. But we are running a little late. Before we get into questions, any other topics?
It's just because we're so deep.
Yeah, very thoughtful, very erudite.
I was gonna say something about Don Hertzfeldt's new film.
Oh yeah, I've been trying to get emotionally prepared to watch it. I haven't yet.
Have you seen the first one?
I think so. The one with the girl and the time travel and stuff.
Yes, yeah. Yes. It is a sequel to that. The World of Tomorrow : World of Tomorrow 2 : The Burden of Other People's Thoughts. Oh my God.
Gosh.
Touching. It is like every recent Don Hertzfeldt production. It is absurd, incredibly funny, deserves watching more than once, definitely. Just excellently animated and so touching and This this man has affected my life emotionally through stick figure drawings, and that is such a genuine and just pure thing for me to not have to have artifice around characters and absurdity and strangeness and emotions and things like that, and just have it be expressed so well, so firmly and genuinely. Yeah, I'm blown away by it. It's really, and it's interesting too, because, and he talked a little bit about this in an email. I'm on his mailing list, and I go to his website and lurk. And he talked about how different it was making a film based around the ramblings of a 4-year-old than it is making a film around the ramblings of a 5-year-old. Because he uses the same girl, his niece, I believe it is. So yeah, there's a, I don't know. You just have to see it. I can't. His work, as far as I'm concerned, defies description. I don't know to tell people that it's a comedy, but there are extremely funny parts. But it is also deeply tragic and emotional, and Yeah. So it's available for rent right now on Vimeo. If you've got a few bucks to spare, check it out. It's so good. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Johnny, Johnny, I want you to know that I was paying attention, but at the very same time you were talking about that beautiful film, I was also watching a GIF of Mario and Sonic have sex.
What kind of sex?
What?
Like what kind of sex?
Well,
like
we didn't get to. The GIF doesn't go as far as penetration. They're just like it's like really angrily like going at each other, and then like
dry humping.
Sonic, like kind of like that, and then Sonic like sort of like rips off Mario's overalls, and then they get on bed. But then the GIF ends, and it's like, you know, I mean, before it gets serious.
So it looks like Sonic's the top then.
Look, I mean, we didn't get as far as, you know, is all that.
I mean, look,
so
I'm just, you know, I want to know, right. I want to know what kind of porny dreams I should have about my video game character friends, and whether or not I'm classifying them properly in their particular skill set.
I mean, is Mario like much taller than Sonic?
Sonic's a hedgehog, so theoretically,
I know, but like,
yeah, but also,
I understand that
in New Donk City,
but he's anthropomorphized.
Mario is significantly shorter than a regular human being.
Yeah, and Sonic 06, he kisses a human girl who's like roughly his size. So
Sonic might be fucking giant.
You know what? I don't think that they're consistent enough to make a determination on this.
Yeah, because think about it in this way. Because in the original Sonic game, when he, like, blows open a robot and, like, a bird comes out, that bird is, like, roughly 1/3 to, like, half the size of Sonic.
Yeah, what if Sonic's enormous? What if we've never considered the possibility that they're entirely different scales? Like, in Pikmin, you can run across, like, bottle caps that are, like, you know, 2 stories taller than the Pikmin.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I'm in the grass because I'm like an ant size. Like, what if Sonic is actually, like, much, much bigger than we think?
It would explain how he's capable of destroying robots simply by, like, aiming his spikes at them. Because if he's fucking 6 foot tall, he's got just a bunch of fucking swords on his back.
Which would make it very hard for Mario to have sex with him doggy style without impaling himself on those spines.
So Sonic's the top.
There I can't think of any other way to parse it. That's where I'm at. That's the stand I'm going to take.
Okay, guys, I'm really, really proud of our deductive skills in this. Probably the most burning question in my mind in the past 20 seconds.
Although, to really synthesize this giant Sonic hypothesis, we also have to assume that the other humans in Sonic 06 are also giant. Which is fine. I'm willing to accept that it takes place in a world of giants compared to Mario, who is smaller than the New Donk people. But I just want us to realize that they're different scales.
Okay. This podcast is going to be like a real pain in the ass to edit because someone is like going to town on some dirt. Right outside my window forever. Like, it's the dirtiest. So do you want to do questions or what?
As long as they're dirty.
Okay, I will look at questions. None about the dirt situation though, which is all I want to talk about.
See, this would benefit from a live cast.
No.
If I didn't have to, yeah. If anyone's ever wondering why this needs to be edited, this is it. I'm probably going to edit out all the banging sounds, or most of them. I'll leave a few in just so people know what we've been dealing with 99% of the time throughout this entire podcast. But yeah,
I get requests for that too for Dice Funk. People are like, "Can you do it live?" And it's like, you have no idea how much work it is to make it listenable.
Yeah, no, dude, no. No.
Also just behind the scenes stuff that I don't make the audience worry about, like people who show up half an hour late or leave half an hour early because of their work schedules and stuff that is seamlessly edited out. But in a live thing.
In season 2, I made it absolutely clear when I had to be gone by, so...
This is not a subtweet to either of you. This is current season that I'm describing. Okay. Let's see.
Lauren.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was her. She knows what she did.
I know.
All right, here's a question. Bright Marsh, I think, or they've changed their name. They're Bright Porg on Twitter asks, "What's your take on the Tide Pod phenomena? Would you eat a cookie or something if it looked like a Tide Pod? Are you guys aware of this?"
I've seen a meme of this. I don't know like what is the point of it. I just saw a picture of it. What is there a discussion surrounding it or what? Like, what is this?
There's a vague threat running around the internet that people are really into eating laundry pods. And I've to my knowledge, I've never seen anybody actually fucking eat one. Or a news headline that's like, this kid ate a Tide Pod and is really sick. But all I've seen are a bunch of people writing, kids are eating Tide Pods right now? That's crazy. And so people are, in response to this, have made cookie recipes that look like Tide Pods.
Okay.
I mean, Austin, have you seen any information of somebody actually eating a Tide Pod?
Oh, I'm sure there are 1,000 videos on YouTube of pranksters eating them, but whatever. They probably throw them up or something because they're not for human consumption. My understanding is that it's a joke based on the fact that they look like they would be candy or something. The same way that when I was a kid, everyone was like, I really want to eat Play-Doh because it looks and smells and feels like it would be food. But I'm sure some people tasted Play-Doh, but it wasn't an epidemic. It seems like an old people freaking out about the youth thing, right?
Yeah.
Kids and their fidget spinners.
I'm trying to recall. There must have been something a couple of years ago or something like that. But nah, nothing's sticking around. Because every 3 years, some fucking public access news station is like, what is lipsticking? And why are kids doing it?
Yeah, it's just some kind of fad. I think they're YouTube videos of people doing it just to be like, look at this wacky thing I'm doing, and it's just a joke, and then people blow it into some kind of outrage about the youth these days, they're so stupid, they're eating poison, and it's idiot. And every generation has a dumb thing.
And people wonder why YouTube is get the fuck out of here, guys.
Oh, man. We got a question about that. I don't know if I want to get into that. Where it was, I can't find it. Maybe if I run into it again. But YouTube did some stuff today, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure did.
A lot of these questions...
You doing okay, Leon? You all right?
I'm good. I'm just I know you guys can hear the hammering, but I can really hear the hammering. And I'm wearing, headphones.
Yeah. Do you want to know something interesting, Leon?
What's up?
It's me.
I'm outside.
Just knocking really hard on my window.
Just
all right.
Yep.
Surprise, motherfucker.
I would be okay with that. That would be a pleasant surprise instead of a guy just putting dirt into smaller containers of dirt.
What fucking temperature is it where you are in your weird arcane?
It's hella cold.
So cold. Obviously dirt is really important because you got to get your planting done now.
Okay. So yeah, Tide Pod thing is just a fucking old people being mad at young people for stuff, whatever. Oh, the kids in their rock and roll, whatever. Fuck them.
And similarly, kids being like, I'm edgy.
Yeah, whatever. We did all kinds of crazy shit when we were that age, and whatever. We got away with it. It's fine.
Don't even fucking talk to me, Yorsky.
Yeah. Okay, here's one. Dr. Izix asks, thoughts on the newest changes of YouTube's requirement for monetization? Any suggestion on what else they should be doing instead? This is the thing I was looking for. So my understanding is that YouTube is not going to let you monetize your channel until you meet a certain either view or time watched quota, basically, which seems to be a response to the Logan Paul. Is that his name? The asshole with the suicide video?
Yeah. Here's the thing. They said the assumption is that it is, but it has nothing to do with that. It's just a way for YouTube to not pay as many people and finally become a sustainable model. It's they lose money. I once read an article that explained how a gigantic company can always be losing money and never has actually made money and still be in business for many, many years. And when I read it, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I forget what it said now. I'm sure there is a reason why gigantic companies that are always like Netflix for example,
you can operate in the red for like decades if you have enough angel investors and people who think eventually they'll get a payout. And the point is to drive every competitor out of business. That's what Uber is doing. They currently lose like $6 billion a year or something. But the point is someday everyone will be so into the Uber ecosystem, there won't be taxis anymore. And then you'll have to use Uber and they'll eventually make that money up because fuck you, pay the only people who are doing it.
Also, you have to understand that this move is actually, I feel, focused entirely on controlling contributors. Because at this point in time, there's a whole bunch of people who feel like if they just YouTube for long enough, then they can make a living at it. And there's going to be a lot of content in there that YouTube is probably going to find they want to be less liable for hosting.
Yeah, which makes sense for like copyright shit, but also like they're blocking Chelsea Manning's bid for Senate.
No, it's not about copyright shit. It's about message control. Look,
I know. I'm saying one I would understand. The other is just garbage.
Yeah, this is years ago we were talking about how we're getting the internet we deserve. Like this is gonna happen to us. This is another step that YouTube is taking towards being more of a almost mandated broadcaster, like a major cable channel or something like that, is they're squeezing out smaller people so that they have a smaller stable of big earners that they can keep track of better because they don't have to worry about all these little 500 subscriber videos that are popping up that are like, hey guys, I just got home from school. I think I'm just going to eat a bagel.
I don't know if they even care
the
about
bagel
that.
channel is so good.
Yeah, I want to see that good bagel content.
No, but the thing is that right now all content on YouTube looks the same to YouTube. Which is how shit gets through. Because, obviously, they must fucking know that their algorithms don't work. They must fucking know that, right? And they're talking about, oh yeah, we're going to hire 10,000 new people in 2018, and we're going to monitor a bunch of shit. And then somebody in that room was like, how the fuck are we going to monitor YouTube? And they were like, easy. Squeeze out a bunch of people who think they can make money doing it, but they can't.
Leon, you had a thought before I was going to jump in?
Basically, in case anyone's wondering what the actual numbers are, in order to make even a penny from YouTube now, you need to have 1,000 subscribers, and in the last 12 months, people needed to watch your videos for 4,000 hours. That sounds like a lot. And it is if you're a small channel. I'm not trying to be I'm not trying to big shot on anyone over here. But I said that's a large number. How many hours do people watch mine in a year? And it's way more than that. Within a couple weeks, it's that. So I'm safe.
How many subscribers do you have, Leon, right now?
About 38,000.
Okay.
You also have to remember that the scale of content is very different, though, because you do talking over video, which is fine, but there's people who do animation, which is incredibly labor intensive, and you get much shorter videos. And it doesn't mean they're less quality. You can do a 30-second video that's as good as a 10-minute video, but fuck you.
And it's crossing that threshold is going to be difficult, because if you need to work for free, essentially, to get that follower count and get that viewing hours, that's a lot of time that you're going to have to spend where you're not making money or at school or, you can't just say, and that's for a year too, 12 months. You need to go for 12 months, possibly, to reach that minimum viewership hours. You can't just be like, nah, I think I'm going to quit school for a year and try YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, the open free internet was nice while it lasted. Or actually, it wasn't. It was mostly a hellstorm. But they at least had a promise of
but
not
the hellstorm people fucked it up!
Even for people who like I know people who have like very low subscribers amounts and like very, very tiny channels, and they make like pennies every once in a while, and they said something along the lines of this doesn't really affect my income, but it's also just kind of insulting. It just feels kind of insulting, and it's discouraging for people who have low subscriber channels who think, well, maybe if I keep at it, because if YouTube says, oh, we don't even believe in you, then that's kind of discouraging.
Yeah, it is demoralizing. It's also just really driving home that the internet is just becoming the outside world, where there's big corporations who control the big things, and everything else is, basically irrelevant in terms of traffic, right? Like the whole like cool Wild West internet that I think we thought would last for a while is coming to an end.
It was a nice 25 years to be alive.
Yeah, I guess it is kind of cool that we got to see it, but
yeah. By the way, Austin, just to respond to something you said, my channel is not just me talking over video. My channel is sometimes me talking over diagrams.
Okay. Oh, I'm not allowed to give any feedback on your new thing, so I don't know what I'm allowed to talk about. So I'm just going to be quiet. I got so many questions.
I have diagrams in a lot of my videos.
I bet.
Thank you very much.
A lot of the questions.
Also, some bibliography.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I solicited questions this week, and most of them are just people asking about your video or congratulating you on it, which is cool. So I'm just conveying them in mass to you now.
Okay, that's fine.
But we're not allowed to talk about it.
Nope.
I have been forbidden.
Yeah.
Here's a quick one. Cyretha asks, should the guy that hit the missile button for Hawaii be punished?
Didn't he quit?
I haven't heard. So I assume everyone knows, but there was like a fake missile scare because of a weird UI situation that happened, right? I slipped through it, so
I would be hesitant to say that this person is fired until I actually see like where this button was in relation to the good button.
Oh, you haven't seen it? It was a drop-down list in the user interface. One said like missile test, and one was like missile alarm, and they clicked the wrong one.
It sounds like the same thing.
I know a guy who was actually in Hawaii, and he was like, "Yeah, woke up to this."
It sounds like almost the exact same thing.
I mean, I've seen the drop-down list, and I can see how you can misclick, but also it seems like a pretty high-stakes thing to be so. To make that kind of mistake. I don't know how I feel because
he's been reassigned.
Okay.
When you click on it,
he worked. My god! Sorry, he worked there for 10 years.
Yeah, I mean it sounds like it's just law of averages. Sooner or later, you're gonna press the wrong button. So I mean that sounds terrible, but it might be true. I mean when you click on OK, does it say, "Are you sure you want to do this?" Like it does on many systems where you're about to like click out of something before saving it, or does it just say, "Yeah, you probably know what you're doing"? I would want to know that before I come down too hard.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you can be very, very good at your job. You can be the best, and you can still make a mistake. And I don't know if that's, like, I don't know if you should lose your livelihood because you didn't drink your coffee one morning. Yeah. But if you're going to fuck up, scaring an entire state of people into thinking they're in mortal danger is one of the better fuck-ups that could justify such a thing. I have complicated feelings, but...
Yeah, when I fuck up at my job, I just lose some audio, and then I just redo it. It's not a big deal. Like the world will go on, and no one is scared. But I'm trying to like put myself in the shoes of people who are experiencing that. Like if I woke up where I was, and there's literally a news alert that says, "Oh, a missile is coming to kill you right now." I don't know if I would be as super forgiving as I am right now.
Yeah.
Where I'm like I'm trying to see it from like the perspective of the person. I'm like, yeah, I mean, accidents happen. But if I were faced with that and people I cared about were like faced with that, I might feel differently.
It's not my forgiveness to give, but I want to be the kind of person who would forgive.
Okay.
Still no news on the Japanese employee that did the same thing on Tuesday.
Is that real? I didn't hear about that.
I'm fucking serious. Yeah, NHK, Japanese public broadcaster, accidentally issued a warning that read, NHK News Alert, North Korea likely to have launched missile. The government J alert, evacuate inside the building or underground. Apparently, all right, and this is an official statement, the error was blamed on an employee who pushed the wrong button.
Yeah. Cool future. Love this.
The Cold War's back, boys.
This sounds like a short story from like a science fiction writer in like the 50s, like as satire.
Yeah, this is Philip K. Dick as hell.
Yeah. Oh my.
They would have been called The Wrong Button.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sorry, but Philip K. Dick's titles are always weird, so it would have to be like, oops, wrong button.
Yeah. All right. So next question. This is a really good one. Starlight Glimmer Did Nothing Wrong asks, I've noticed that people can often point to a specific book or series they read as a kid that got them into reading. What did that for you guys as kids? I have an immediate answer, which is Goosebumps. I don't know if we're in the same age bracket, but I tore those shits up in like kindergarten, basically, and it totally changed my whole scene.
I read way above my age bracket.
Yeah,
like way above my age,
like shockingly so. Like I think we're samesies there.
Yeah, so like when I was fucking like, I guess when I was in the first grade, I started reading the Hardy Boys books.
Okay.
But like I didn't really fucking fall in love with lit, I think, until I was like, I want to say like 10 when I started reading Isaac Asimov. Mm-hmm. I read the Foundation books when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And they just fucking blew my mind. And I'm not trying to be like, oh, I read the fucking Foundation books when I was, because I'm absolutely certain that I didn't understand them as well as I could if I read them again now. In fact, I got them for Christmas because I want to reread them with a more observant mind. But yeah, that was like the shit for me.
Okay, I've told my Hitchhiker's Guide story like a couple different times now, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, that was my book series when I was young.
Cool. Let's see, we got a couple more minutes. I'm always fighting the clock here. Dark Kent Reltnark asks, best retirement fight? Parentheses wrestling. I assume a retirement fight is where the loser has to retire.
Yeah. Either Shawn Michaels versus The Undertaker, where Shawn Michaels lost and had to retire because that was a great match.
Or me versus Zack Snyder.
That would be very good. Or Shawn Michaels versus Ric Flair, where Ric Flair had to retire. Because that has the best ending, where Ric Flair just could not keep up with Shawn Michaels, and he just kind of stood there crying, like he's like, hit me, finish it, and then Shawn Michaels says, I love you, I'm sorry, and then he kicks him in the head and pins him, and that was like a really great emotional ending to a match. And the night after, Ric Flair comes out and he does this big retirement speech, but the only reason I'm hesitant to say that's definitely the best one is because it was ruined. Because Ric Flair just didn't retire. I think like a few months later, he started working for a different promotion because he needed the money. He did not invest in his money very well over the many years.
He spent a lot of money on Flair.
You shut up.
He was the best Applebee's waiter I've ever seen. He just covered in Flair from head to toe.
Jesus. But yeah. Sometimes, here's the thing. Like, those come to mind because they were like, where the wrestler wanted to retire and said, I want to have a big retirement match where like the stipulation is if I lose, I retire. But usually that's just not what happens. What happens is someone just stops, or they stop and then they just come back and wrestle one more match. and they come back and they wrestle at a local indie. There are wrestlers who were like big in the '80s who still wrestle now, like in independent promotions, like like once a month because they need the money, and people will come see them. So it's a hard question to answer because you never really know when someone's retired. Like we thought The Undertaker was retired last year. He did like the world's saddest striptease. He lost the match and then he took off his Undertaker gear. I'm joking. He wasn't naked or anything. He just took off his like scary hat and scary gloves and scary trench coat. And he just looked like a guy, and he walked over and like hugged his real life wife in the crowd, and he walked off
he undertook his comeback.
Yep. I mean, you joke, but yes, he's showing up on Monday Night Raw this Monday. The speculation is he's going to have another match, and this time it'll be with John Cena. And it's like, what? It's just so weird because the year before he did that retirement match, he left like his gloves in the ring, and people thought, oh, this means Mark Calloway, the guy who plays The Undertaker, is going to retire. And then the next year he did like all of his gear. So like, what is he going to do now? Like leave his skin in the ring? Like that's the only way you could top it. So sorry, I've turned this into a wild tangent. The real answer is the Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker match where he retired, because it was just a really great, amazing match. And Shawn Michaels kept to it. He hasn't wrestled since. He's been adamant about the fact that he just doesn't want to anymore. And that's fine. It's best to go out when you're still good.
You guys both have come at me this episode with, you joke, but
I was going to say something about that.
I'm just not sure how to be taken seriously by you guys, honestly.
You've cultivated a certain personality for your broadcast persona, Johnny, where you say whack shit sometimes, and it's hard to tell which direction you're coming from. So
honestly. I had thought you guys would be able to read me by now. I'm disappointed.
I think that speaks well of your ability to kind of misdirect, though. That it seems genuine when you're bullshitting sometimes to an extent where it's it's hard to tell. That's a compliment.
All right, if you say so.
It's all that
we got away with it, Leon. Good one. Let's see. Jade, our doctor of questions, asks, Austin, thoughts on Magic the Gathering Unstable? Have I talked about that before? There was the joke set of Magic the Gathering that came out.
Yeah, you've mentioned Unstable. I mean, okay. I'm aware of Unstable, but
it's really good. It's the most fun I had playing in like pretty much ever. We played a lot with it. It's the third joke set, but it's the first in like 10 years. The other two they've done before were the jokes were what they were, which was juvenile mostly, but it wasn't good to play with. This is both really good to play with and funny. Favorite card is definitely Rules Lawyer, which I think I tweeted about. It's a card that makes up some of the really complicated rules of the game not work, which is funny by itself, but also very good to use. The actual thing I want to talk about with Magic, I know we're out of time, I'm going to make this as quick as possible, is they banned 4 more cards. This is the 9th card they've banned basically in the last year. It's like, I would say nearly unprecedented. There's been like 2 other incidents in the 25-year history of the game that arise to this. All 3 like artifact heavy sets, Kaladesh, Urza Saga, and Mirrodin, they've had to do this. They absolutely do not know how to cost artifacts. They got to stop doing artifact sets. Although honestly, Mirrodin and Kaladesh probably my 2 favorite sets. So maybe that's just because I don't play professionally and therefore I'm not super invested in getting a bunch of my cards banned. I don't care. You haven't really hurt me. And maybe that's selfish. I think it's really exciting when they do whack shit. They can't do too much because you don't want to turn it into Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it's just nonstop garbage. But a little garbage is kind of fun, honestly. And I realize this is a one-person conversation now. But it is interesting to watch this game try to come into like the modern era with like Hearthstone, which is its main competitor, because it's a purely online game. And if something isn't working, they can just patch it. It costs $0 for them to have someone change one number to another number, and Hearthstone is able to do that so easily. In Magic, they just can't. They can errata something, but they cannot replace the cardboard in your hand, really. And there's no smooth way to do that. So they just have to ban stuff. And that's always been a controversial call because you take someone's cards from potentially very valuable to worthless. But it's especially bad when you have this looming competitor made by Blizzard, Activision Blizzard, actually. And they are basically whooping you. And it's a bad look for a lot of people. But it is super exciting because they're pushing into a lot of cool space. I think they just fucked up the costing. Or just didn't notice combos. It's too esoteric to get into, probably. But I think the new set looks really cool. Rivals of Ixalan is the tribal set. They've banned all the cards that were keeping the dinosaurs from being competitive. And so now there's going to be a chance for dinosaurs to be really big. That's going to be cool. I'm excited for the big meaty boys to get into Commander. Definitely going to cast some of those. No one knows what I'm talking about anymore. I'll stop.
I am kind of curious to see what their video game is going to look like.
Oh yeah. So, yeah, Magic Arena, which is in I guess beta right now, is going to be interesting. I will try it out, but it's just Hearthstone's so far ahead. It's like releasing a World of Warcraft competitor. It's just like pretty doomed.
Yeah. There's another one as well, though, isn't there? There's because last year it was announced that Cryptic Studios was doing one as well, or something.
Yeah, there are other card games out there. I mean, Gwent has an audience.
No. I mean, Cryptic Studios is doing like a Magic the Gathering like role playing game or something like that.
Yeah, I mean that was announced. I don't know if that's ever going to actually happen. It seems like a bad idea. Wow. Also, there was a Magic movie that was optioned.
Oh, great.
Yeah. I realize I've too heavily invested in a losing horse at this point. Like I I probably should be playing Hearthstone. It's just the characters mean nothing to me. I don't know who any of these fuckers are. Because they're all Hearthstone is in the World of Warcraft universe, so it's like I had to learn all of their lore to be invested in it. And it's like I already know who Jace is. I care about Jace. I care about Chandra and Nissa and Gideon, and it's too late. It's too late.
I'm just happy you're not playing Yu-Gi-Oh again, Austin.
Oh man, I actually did a little bit of a dip, not into buying Yu-Gi-Oh. Don't get me wrong, I just started watching the anime and looking at the new cards and stuff. Yu-Gi-Oh is wild. Real quick, because we're so out of time. But Yu-Gi-Oh started the word Yu-Gi-Oh, or I guess words. It means king of games, and it was from a manga. And the premise of the manga was that this guy would play different games. So there's going to be like a chess arc or whatever, and like backgammon maybe. But they started with Magic the Gathering, and so the game Duel Monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh is basically like alternate universe Magic the Gathering, and it proved so popular that they didn't do any of the other stuff, and it just became the card game thing. But because that's the way it was, the rules didn't have a lot of thought put into them because it was supposed to just be a Magic pastiche. But they were stuck with what they started with, which was bad, and so therefore Yu-Gi-Oh it was in a unwinnable situation where they had established things they couldn't unestablish, and they were not workable as a game, and therefore Yu-Gi-Oh was always fucked as a competitive game, and it has only gotten worse over time, and it basically is a different game at this point. They've added so many mechanics to it, like positioning and all kinds of weird pendulum summons and shit, like things I can't even describe, and it's bad from a game design perspective, but they were always bad because the resource management aspect of the game was fucked from the jump. And that could be a whole podcast unto itself. But Yu-Gi-Oh is fucking wild, and it's really cool how fucking broken it is. But that's a whole other thing. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying?
It's okay. I don't know. Something about Pokemon.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Anything you guys want to say before we go?
Yes. I have discovered an amazing secret to cooking beef in my immersion circulator, but I'm going to describe it in the style of Nick Cave.
Okay.
Oh, the other day, I put some steaks in the immersion circulator. And yes, I added some fish sauce. Turned out to be really good. And I think I'm going to do it again in the future. Because it was good.
Speaking of Nick Cave, I watched the new season of Peaky Blinders, and I don't have too much to say about it, except Adrian Brody's in it for some reason. And he plays like a stereotypical like Italian-American mob boss. And it's crazy to see Academy Award-winning Best Actor fucking Adrian Brody being like, my mama's meatballs are so spicy. I'm going to shoot you because I am gangster.
You just went Russian there, man. That was fantastic.
Went all over the place.
Listen, I only have the one
I want to
accent.
beat that guy.
I'm just saying, it seems like he's slumming very hard, but I do like this show, even though it's not the best. Okay.
I have nothing further.
That's cool.
I think for a show about nothing, guys,
yeah,
we did okay.